Hello and welcome to this video. We were continuing the first chapter of your history, that is tracing changes through 1,000 years. In last video, we discussed up to the manuscripts and documents, and in this video we will discuss about new social and political groups. The study of 1,000 years between 700 and 1750 is a huge challenge for historians, largely because of the scale and variety of developments that occurred over the period. The period between 700 to 1750 is a huge challenging period for historians in order to study history of this period, because this period seen a lots of development and a variety of development. Several things developed in this period, like emergence of new social group, upcoming of technologies, coming of new type of crops. So this 1,000 years of period has witnessed a lots of development, and because of the variation in development, the rate of development, it is the most complicated period for historians to study the history. At different moments in this period, new technologies made their appearances. And in different times of this period, different new things came along, like the Persian wheel, which was used for irrigation, the spinning wheel, which was used for weaving, and the firearms in combat. You can see here, this is Persian wheel, and it was a technology developed during that time which made the irrigation process a bit easier. This is the spinning wheel, which was used for weaving cloths. This is firearms in combat, used for war purpose. So the technologies like the Persian wheel, the spinning wheel, and the firearms are some technologies which were newly developed during that period. Except this technological development, there were some new food crops that came to the country or that introduced to the subcontinent. New foods and beverages arrived in the subcontinent, like potatoes, corn, chilies, and tea and coffee. So, potatoes, corn, chilies were some new foods, whereas tea and coffee were some new beverages that were introduced or arrived to the subcontinent. People knew about these food crops for the first time. The question is how the techniques and the food or the beverages travel. Obviously, they are non living, they cannot travel by their own. And people were completely unaware about such technologies or such food beverages before. That means that they were came to know about all this gradually over time. Then the question is how they came to know about all these things. Well, the answer to that is all these innovations, new technologies, and crops came along with people who brought other ideas with them as well. And those new technologies or those ideas or those foods where came along people. When people start mobilizing, when people start moving from places to new places in search of opportunities, the ideas and their food habits, their culture also travel with them. For example, in today's time, when we went to restaurant, obviously we are the citizen of India, we are living in India. Whenever we visit any Indian restaurant, you must have seen that there is a menu card, And in that there are several types of food like Thai food, Mexican food, Chinese food. The question is, we are in India, then how the people or how the chef of that restaurant know about the recipe of Mexican or Thai or Chinese food? The answer to that is obviously the movement of people. Sometimes some Chinese or Mexican or Thai people come to India in search of job opportunity, or vice versa. Sometimes Indians go to other countries in search of opportunity, and when people move from one place to another, they carry along their idea, their culture, their food habit, and that is how it travel to distant lands. And as people move from one place to another, they carry ideas, innovations, technologies, and food habits along with them. But at the same time, this period also experience economic, political, social, and cultural changes. This was also a period of great mobility. Mobility means movement. Movement of people or things from place to place is called mobility. Groups of people traveled long distances in search of opportunity. As we already study about these things in class 6th history, that there were various foreign people who traveled to distant land like India in search of opportunity. There were various Chinese traveler, various Roman traveler, various Persian traveler. We study a lot about traveler in class 6 and also in last videos where we study about Minhaj-e-Siraj, who was a Persian chronicler. Means Minhaj-e-Siraj belonged to Persia. Well, in this period, people traveled long distance in search of opportunities, job opportunities mainly. The subcontinent held immense wealth and the possibility for people to crave a fortune. And the Indian subcontinent was so full of wealth and opportunity that people from distant land were floating to Indian subcontinent in search of opportunity and to make a good fortune. One group of people who became important in this period were the Rajputs, and there was a group of people who became politically important in that period, and they were called Rajputs. Now we will discuss about Rajputs in detail. Rajputs. Rajput name was derived from the term Rajaputra, and the meaning of Rajaputra, the literal meaning of Rajaputra is the son of a ruler. Between the 8th and 14th centuries, the term was applied more generally to a group of warriors who claimed Kshatriya caste status like rulers and chieftains, soldiers, and commanders who served in the armies of different monarchs all over the subcontinent. And initially, the meaning of Rajput was the son of a ruler, but gradually from 8th to 14th century, the term Rajaputra was used more widely and more generally for a group of people and was not remained restricted to only for the sons of kings or rulers. It was more widely used for other groups of people like chiefs, soldiers, commanders, rulers, etc. And all these rulers or chiefs or soldiers, commanders, they were previously known as the Kshatriyas. Now the Kshatriya caste were more generally addressed as Rajputs. There are several qualities and attributes of Rajputs which are described by poets in their poems, which they written in praise of the Rajputs. chivalry code of conduct, means a very disciplined code of conduct. Extreme valor, means a extreme value. A great sense of loyalty. These are the these are the qualities of Rajput as described by some poets in their praise poems. Other groups of people also used the opportunity of the age to become politically important, like the Marathas, the Sikhs, the Jats, the Oghams, and the Kayasts. Kayasts were a caste of scribe. We already discussed in last video that scribes were learned men who knew the art of writing. So except Rajputs, the other important political groups were Marathas, Sikhs, Jats, Ahoms, and Kayasts. So except technological development, introduction of new type of foods and beverage crops, and emergence of some important political group, there were several other changes also took place. Like throughout this period there was a gradual clearing of forest. Why there was a gradual clearing of forest? Because there was a great need of agricultural land, and in order to get agricultural land, the king ordered their troops, their army, to clear forest and to convert the forest area into agricultural land. Why there was a great demand of agricultural land? Because the population was rising. People required more and more food crop in order to survive, and in order to fulfill that, the kings were clearing their forest. As the kings were extending their kingdoms, gradually they were clearing forest in order to extend or in order to expand their agricultural land. So in this process of clearing forest, there was a group of people who suffer a lot. Who are they? They were forest dwellers. Means people who were living in forest. And people who live in forest are generally called tribe. We will read about tribes more in further chapters. So the tribal people, the forest dweller, were suffer a lot, and because forests were being cleared, they have to migrate to other areas or city areas or urban areas and had to settle there, and they started doing peasantry, means farming. Gradually, as more and more number of forest dwellers converted into peasants, a new peasant group emerged. And as a group of peasants emerged, they were influenced by regional markets, chieftains means mukhya kind, priest means the Brahmins mainly, monasteries and temples. So gradually the new turned peasants from forest dweller were get influenced by regional markets, chieftains, priests, monasteries and temples, and they became part of large complex society, and gradually the forest dweller turned into a part of the complex society. We will read about the tribal group and the complex society more in further chapters. Also they were required to pay tax now. Before, while they were living in forest, they were excluded from the taxing pattern, but as they turn a part of the mainstream society, gradually they were started paying taxes. They offer goods and services to local lords. Local lords here means jamindar kind or the local ruler. So gradually they started offering whatever goods they produced or whatever kind of services they were capable of, they started offering it to the local rulers. As a result, Economic and social differences emerged among peasants, and as they became a part of the complex society, they started giving taxes, they started offering goods and services, they turn into peasants, they get influenced by the regional market, priests, monasteries, temples, etc. Gradually, a difference emerged between them. Why a difference emerged between them? Because some peasants possessed more land and produced more goods, while other were possessed small land, they produced less. So there was a gap between rich peasants and poor peasants, and there were some other peasants who do not practice peasantry or farming directly, rather they were keeping cattle and other animals. And some farmers or some peasants were there who practice multiple tasks, like during cropping season they used to practice farming, while in the leisure time they used to practice artisanal work like making pottery, weaving basket, weaving cloths. So some were pure farmer or pure peasant. Among them some were rich and some were poor. Some were become animal rearer and some were mixed profession holder. They were peasants and artisans simultaneously. That's all about this video. Thank you.